Regardless of what form the inner strength takes, the source is coming from our heart and in from the power of our mind. So what came up for me when I asked that question was stress and fear. Yeah, it's whatever stresses that life is throwing at us, where it's almost as though we are paralyzed in some way and we're unable to access certain areas of the brain. That when you do your yoga and when you do your meditation, maybe for you it could be like going for a nice walk or being in the garden, we have a calmer, more centered mind. It's that much easier to feel strong in our being. So if we're running on the stress/fear program, we're really not in the present moment. Where are we? Usually it's the past. So the way out is to come into the present moment as much as possible. So again, that's like going for a walk, being in the kitchen, cooking, being focused and centered on whatever it is that we're doing, being in our body, being centered, being balanced, takes us out of that stress and fear and brings us into a state where we can kind of swim in the space. So it's about always seeking that homeostasis. Our physical body can teach us this, and whatever we're dealing with on a physical level can give us these instructions to get the junk out of the way that is preventing us from feeling that state of homeostasis in our life. And the more that we stress ourselves in that way, doesn't mean go out and, put yourself at risk for your life or something like that. But it means finding those good stresses. Here's a thought. Going to a 10-day meditation retreat, which I used to do on a regular basis. You build your inner strength, you build your inner reserves, because it is that good stress, that positive stress, like getting in an ice bath or, doing something that is really, that really scares you. Like perhaps if you have a fear of public speaking and you get up there and you practice and you do it. So then that is putting you in front and facing your fear. Strong determination is when you set your mind to something. So when we really set our mind to something, we can do whatever is within our means of doing. So if you decide that you want to get up every single morning and you want to meditate for 15 minutes and you set your mind to doing that, after a while, apparently 10 days is the amount of time that you need in order to develop that as a habit. You then have that under your belt, and then it's easier to do more things like that. So it's like a muscle. You going to the gym, you want to build your bicep. A lot of times what happens is we falter because something goes wrong. So in the middle of, let's say you're building that muscle, and then suddenly you get a phone call and someone you care about was in a bad accident. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go rush and go help that person. It's getting back on and dusting yourself off and making sure that you come back to it. It's about mustering that strength. That is the difficult part. So I'd be interested to hear if you guys or anyone watching this later has an example of something like that may have been a part of your life where you felt that happening and it was harder for you to get back on, or you never did get back on your plan. But that whole idea of being triggered and the idea of self-inquiry is the key that unlocks our ability to muster that strength whenever we need it and however we need it. And also the compassion that we need for ourselves when we don't, and giving ourselves that period of time to be in that state as well. Reading, you're not writing. So basically it's just you and your mind in the ring together. And it's quite an intense experience, because it's almost like, my husband George says it's almost like going to jail, because you're just deciding to put yourself into this, and you're there, and you're not doing much else, except pulling those weeds of your mind. So when you make that decision, that strong determination to do that, sure, some people leave, but they make you go through this process of questions before you enter, where you say, like, I am going to commit to this. And so you make that commitment, you make that strong determination, and you jump in, just like jumping into that cold water. It's a switch that goes on, and you just do it. You get up in front of those people and do that talk. So my question, and I don't really know full answer. I know some answers. And I think we all kind of have this question, is where does that come from? And how do we maintain it? So that's what this is all about. The answer is in the question. And the answer is in the discussion. The answer is in the stories that we tell each other about our own experiences. And for me, with the Vipassana meditation, I gave my trust over to that experience, and I just dove in with this knowledge and trust that it was going to be helpful for me in my life. And as a result, it was going to be helpful for others around me. And so that's why it's so important to work with these practices that we do together, because then it's much easier for you to go back and say, okay, follow my breath, feel my body, tune into my body, just whatever you need to do in that moment to inhabit yourself to come out of that primitive mind. So we must shed the ego or the identity in order to escape that hamster wheel that a lot of people are on, where they're in reactivity mode all the time. I think all of us know someone who's like that. It's like constant reactivities, and they're not able to really feel into themselves and what they're actually feeling. They're on that hamster wheel all the time, constantly stressed. Your biology is going to be programmed by what you've done in the past. So this is the importance of our physical body and our physicality. One of the reasons I'm always talking about being in your body, inhabiting your body. So what happens is you lose your free will to that program that your body is following due to your past experiences. It's extremely important for us to remember that in order to move forward to where we want to be, where we visualize ourselves, we need to unplug from that stuff, from that programming that we have in the past. So essentially what's happening is we are developing an entirely new persona. So our persona, you may have noticed yourself, because I know you guys, a lot of you guys are on a path, a spiritual path, and you have been for some time. You may notice when you meet someone or you see someone that you knew from your past, it's almost like you you revert in some ways and you remember this shadow of yourself, or I should say ghost of yourself, the old you. You talk to them and it's kind of like, I was so different then. And you realize how far you've come and how you have let go of a lot of that programming. And you also may realize when you meet someone who is more in the zone of where you see yourself and your potential, you may notice how far you feel you need to come still. And it's very important to remember that the compassion aspect must be part of that, because we must be where we are and we must be in acceptance of where we are. Yesterday, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So how do we do that? How do we let go? How do we let go of that old programming? What do? We just practice. So that's why we call it yoga practice or meditation practice, elevated energy. And this suppresses the thinking mind. And this begins to heal the body and stress. When the brain starts processing a new stream of consciousness, that light bulb turns on, we awaken, and we have an inward experience that then begins to create new neural pathways. So I'm not going to get too much into the science part of it, but that is basically what's happening, right? The brain is creating new pathways. And this is what meditation and yoga really do. Like, we're really forging new pathways. And these literally improve our ability to step into an entirely new pathway, both literally and figuratively. We must overcome to let that program within us die. So letting that old go so that we can rise and recreate ourselves. So therefore, you're not healing the mind with the mind, but you're rising above and taking that question into a different place, that programmed aspect of you. It's then becoming more metaphysical, where it's just posing the question and then seeing what comes in for you without thinking. But it has to come from somewhere, right? So we need to make the decision and then start to draw upon it. Community. We gain strength from that. We gain our chi from that. We gain from just being together. And, I've heard from many of you out there who are constantly saying, I love the yoga family. I love, even if just a few notes in the chat, just being with other people and knowing that they're with us in this experience of yoga and life. And we're all kind of muddling through it together. And then when we actually do decide to face it, when we do come to that hurdle, and then we try to leap over it, and we make it, then we know that we can do it, and we do it again. Let's face it. We're in our mind. So if we're reacting to something, it's not the other's fault. We're choosing to be there. So it's our experience that we are reacting to. And through that reactivity, we either lose or gain strength. Affirmations that will help us generate strength of will. And these are good to throw on your mirror or on your fridge. These are some good ones I found and created. I trust myself and am guided by my divine spark and connection to source. I trust myself and am guided by my divine spark and connection to source. When the time comes, I will know what to do. When the time comes, I will know what to do. I have faith that everything will be okay. I have faith that everything will be okay. I am stronger than my temporary thoughts. Those darn thoughts. Darn thinking mind. I am stronger than my temporary thoughts. I can rise above these thoughts and will not allow myself to be trapped in a destructive cycle. Ooh, good one. I can rise above these thoughts and will not allow myself to be trapped in a destructive cycle. So that's the patterns again, right? Programs. It is up to me to use my discernment to choose thoughts that empower. It is up to me to use my discernment to choose thoughts that empower. Remember, thoughts are just thoughts. We do not need to own them. They come in and they go. They're not always ours. Sometimes they're other people's or other things or other entities. They're not ours. So remember that when you have thoughts that you kind of go, what was that? Don't own it. Let it go. This challenge will not break me. I will rise from it. This challenge will not break me. I will rise from it. I may be afraid, but I will continue because I am living authentically. I may be afraid, but I will continue because I am living authentically. Be yourself. Be compassionate. I will not allow destructive ideas to disempower me. I will not allow destructive ideas to disempower me. I'm in charge of my life and will find balance. I'm in charge of my life and will find balance. I may not have control of stressful events, but I do have control over my reactivity to them. I may not have control of stressful events, but I do have control over my reactivity. So, inner strength.
Those were good affirmations.
Yeah, they're good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one was your favorite one?
I like the one, when the time comes, I will know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a great one. We're so often worrying about what to do, and sometimes it can just take over our mind and take over everything and lose sleep over it.
And instead, just trust that you will know what to do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great one. So, did you have any other thoughts that you wanted to share, either one of you two? Any thoughts about any of it? Lots to mull over, right?
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So, for those of you who are enjoying this later, please feel free to respond to the email and let me know your thoughts. And if you'd like, I could share them with the group as well. And I wish you a very empowered week ahead. and keep strong, keep in your inner strength, and stay with yourself when you have those hard moments. Be compassionate, take a breath, and draw upon that strength that you know you have inside, and keep going. Because it's when we stop and falter that we often become weakened. So just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep smiling and sharing your light.